He never imagined his life would change with one simple yes. Jamal grew up where dreams went to die, in the cracked brick projects of Monroe Heights, Louisiana. At 23, he was used to struggle. His mama passed when he was 14, shot dead in a drive-by that wasn't meant for her. His pops, gone long before that. He scraped by doing odd jobs, hauling junk for old white folks in the richer neighborhoods, trying not to think too much about how unfair life was. People laughed at him when he told them he wanted to be somebody. A chef, maybe. Own a food truck someday. But dreams were expensive, and Jamal was broke. Real broke. That's when she came in. Her name was Eleanor, white as snow, wrinkled like aged paper, hair the color of ash. She must have been 75, maybe older, and she talked like someone who had never been told no in her entire life. He met her while cleaning out her garage. She didn't speak much at first, just watched him with this strange, lingering look like she was studying him, not judging, just watching. She gave him water and asked questions like she actually cared. About his past, his goals, his thoughts on love. That evening she asked him to sit with her on the porch. Her fingers trembled slightly as she poured tea into fancy little cups. She spoke of loneliness, how her children were gone. One dead, one estranged, and how she'd been alone for too many years. Her eyes pale and ghost-like stayed on his face as she said it. "I want to marry you, Jamal." He laughed at first, thought it was a joke. But Eleanor wasn't joking. She offered security, a place to stay, food, even money for his cooking dream. No strings attached, just companionship. Everyone he knew called it crazy. Some said it was nasty. Others said he was a gold digger, a scammer. But Jamal wasn't that. He just wanted a break, a chance. And Eleanor? She made him feel seen, like he wasn't invisible. So he said yes. They married quietly. No church, no friends, just a judge, a couple of signatures, and a kiss on the cheek. Jamal moved into her massive old Victorian house on Sycamore Street. The place smelled like dust and lilacs. The walls held memories, photos of people long gone, furniture that looked untouched for decades. The first few days were weird. Not bad, just quiet. Eleanor kept her routine. Early breakfast, long walks, reading in the garden. At night, she'd hum old gospel songs as she brushed her hair in front of the mirror. She never asked him to sleep in her room, said she didn't expect anything from him except honesty. But there was something off. The way she locked the basement every night, the way the phone never rang but she always seemed to be expecting someone, the way her mood would shift when he asked about her past. On the 7th day, everything changed. That morning, Eleanor went out for her usual walk but never came back. Jamal waited, paced the porch, even called the cops. They brushed it off, said maybe she'd just wandered off. But Eleanor wasn't the wandering type. He knew that much. By nightfall, he couldn't take it anymore. The silence was louder than ever, and then he remembered the basement. The door was unlocked. With a flashlight in hand, he opened it, heart pounding. The smell hit first. Not just old wood and mildew, something else. Metallic, rotten, heavy. He stepped down slowly, the beam of light flickering across dusty shelves and crates. Then he saw it, the trunk, old, leather-strapped and covered in cobwebs. Jamal knelt down and popped the latch open. What he found inside made him stagger back and drop the flashlight. The flashlight hit the floor and spun, casting warped shadows along the basement walls. Jamal's breath caught in his throat as he stared at the open trunk. Inside were bones, small ones, a child's. He stumbled backward, nearly falling over a stack of old newspapers. The weight of what he was seeing hit him like a freight train. The skull, fragile and smooth, was tucked beneath a faded pink blanket. Beside it, a rusted teddy bear, missing an eye, and a photograph, weathered but clear. A little girl, blonde, smiling, missing front teeth. The name Abigail was scrawled on the back in delicate cursive. Jamal's hands shook as he picked up the photo. He couldn't stop staring at it, trying to understand. Whose child was this? What the hell was this trunk doing hidden in Eleanor's locked basement? His mind raced. Was she a killer? Was this some twisted part of her past? Or worse, was it something current? Eleanor always spoke of 2 children, One dead, one estranged. Could this be the one who died? But why would her bones be in the house in a hidden trunk? Suddenly the silence in the basement cracked, a creak from upstairs. He froze. Someone, or something, was in the house. Jamal grabbed the flashlight and turned it off. He crouched behind an old dresser, heart hammering so loud he thought whoever was up there could hear it. Another footstep echoed down the hall. Above, slow, deliberate. He waited. 10 minutes passed, maybe more, and the footsteps never came closer. Still, he didn't move until he was sure whoever it was had gone, or wasn't coming down. When he finally climbed the stairs and stepped back into the house, everything looked the same, quiet. Still, but something had shifted. The front door was slightly ajar. He locked it, bolted it, double-checked every window. Eleanor still hadn't returned. By midnight, he gave up on sleep and went back down into the basement with a notepad and his phone. He needed proof. If something happened to him next, he wanted someone to know what he found. He took photos of the bones, the blanket, the photo. Then something caught his eye near the bottom of the trunk. A small envelope sealed with red wax. He hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. The paper yellowed, brittle, like it had been hidden for decades. If you are reading this, you weren't meant to. I swore to keep her secret buried, but I couldn't burn her. Not after what I did, not after what we all did. Forgive me, Eleanor. No signature, no date, just that. Jamal read the letter 5 times, each word heavier than the last. What? We all did. He climbed back upstairs and sat on the edge of the couch, staring at the flickering candlelight. Questions clawed at his brain. Who was we? Why was Eleanor hiding this? Was she protecting someone, or protecting herself? The next morning, a knock came at the door. Firm, 3 times. He peeked through the blinds. 2 men in black suits, no badges, no logos, just cold, emotionless faces. Jamal didn't move, didn't answer. Then he heard it. One of them whispered to the other, "He's found it." Jamal's blood ran cold. Jamal's fingers tightened around the edge of the curtain. He could barely breathe. "He's found it." Those words echoed in his ears like a death sentence. The 2 men in black stood silently on the porch for a few more seconds before one of them stepped down and pulled out a small device. Jamal watched him wave it toward the doorframe, like a scanner or sensor of some kind. He didn't know what it was, but whatever it detected, the man nodded. Then they left. No knock, no warning. Just turned and walked down the steps, got into their dark SUV, and drove off without a sound. Jamal stood frozen. He was still gripping the curtain, unaware of how hard, until his fingers started to cramp. His body was on edge, brain screaming at him to leave. Run, burn the house down. But something made him stay. Eleanor still hadn't come home, and now it felt like she might never come back. He sat on the couch for hours, trying to figure it out. The bones, the letter, the men, the sealed basement, the damn trunk with that little girl's photo. It didn't add up. Nothing added up. But one thing kept looping through his head, what we all did. That night, he searched the house top to bottom. Every drawer, every closet, every cabinet. Somewhere in that dusty old house was a piece of the truth. In Eleanor's bedroom, hidden in a drawer beneath a false bottom, he found something strange. A set of keys, 5 of them. All old. One had a tiny tag that read LS. Another had no markings at all, but was smeared with something black. Maybe old oil, maybe soot. Alongside the keys was a worn-out journal. The cover was leather, cracked from age, and inside were shaky, handwritten notes. Jamal flipped through the first few pages and felt his throat tighten. It wasn't just a diary, it was a confession. March 3rd, 1989. Tonight was the last night we met. The others agreed. Abigail had to go. She knew too much. She saw what we did in that room. I tried to protect her, but the vote was unanimous. We made a pact, silence or death. The order always comes first. Jamal reread that sentence 3 times. The order. Was this a cult? A secret society? And why did this little girl, Abigail, have About to die. His stomach churned. Flipping through more pages, he saw names, not full names, just initials. LS, HT, DM, some underlined. Some circled. He got to the last page. There Eleanor's handwriting looked shakier than ever. I married you because you reminded me of the child I lost. But I didn't lose her. I gave her away. To them. Now they want her back, even in death. If I disappear, know this. They are watching. Always. Trust no one. Jamal sat back on the bed, his breath ragged. She knew they'd come for her, and she married him as a shield, a witness, a distraction. He didn't know, but he knew one thing. He had to leave. Now. He grabbed the journal, the keys, his phone, and a pocket knife he found in the drawer. As he turned to leave the room, the doorbell rang. Again, 3 knocks. Slow, deliberate, the same as before. But this time when he peeked through the peephole, it wasn't the men, it was a woman, and she looked just like the girl in the photo, but older, broken, and crying. Jamal's hand hovered over the door handle, sweat slicking his palm. The woman outside couldn't be real. She looked mid-30s, maybe early 40s, but her eyes carried the weight of 100 lifetimes. Her hair was thin, blonde, tied in a messy braid. She wore an oversized coat like she'd been sleeping on benches. But her face was a ghost, an older version of that little girl in the photo. Abigail. He opened the door a crack, just enough to speak through. "Who are you?" She looked up, her eyes wide and bloodshot. "You're Jamal?" Her voice cracked. "Eleanor's husband." Jamal hesitated, gripping the knife in his pocket tighter. "Yeah, who the hell are you?" "I'm Abigail," she whispered. The world tilted. He stepped back, stunned. "That's not possible. You're dead." She let out a bitter laugh. "Yeah, that's what they want everyone to think." He didn't know what to believe anymore. Everything had been a lie since the minute he said, "I do." But something in her face, the pain, the fear, it was too raw to fake. He opened the door wider. "Get in. Now." She stepped inside, glancing around like someone might jump out from behind the walls. Jamal locked the door behind her and pulled the curtains shut. "I saw your bones," he said. "In the basement, I found your picture, the trunk." "That wasn't me," she interrupted, her voice sharp. "That was Maria." "Who's Maria?" Abigail sat down slowly, as if her legs were about to give out. "My twin." Jamal felt the breath leave his chest. "I was supposed to be the one in that box," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "But they killed her instead. By mistake. Or maybe on purpose. I still don't know." Jamal sat across from her, the journal in his lap. "Who is they? What is this order?" She hesitated, then looked him dead in the eyes. "They call themselves the Sycamore Circle, a secret group. Old money, politicians, judges, all hidden behind charity foundations and historical societies. Eleanor was part of it too. So was my father." Jamal's mind reeled. "What the hell did they do to you?" Abigail looked down at her trembling hands. "When we were kids, they used us for rituals, experiments, God knows what else. We were part of something called the harvest. Every year a child would be given, sometimes willingly, sometimes taken. But we weren't supposed to talk. Ever." She sniffled, then added, "I saw something I wasn't supposed to. Something that happened in that basement. They were going to make me disappear. But Eleanor, she switched us. She tried to protect me." Jamal's throat tightened. "She killed her own daughter to save you." Abigail nodded. "And then she left. Vanished, changed her name. I didn't see her again until 2 years ago. When she reached out to me, said she wanted to confess everything before she died." Jamal pulled the journal from his coat and handed it to her. She was ready to talk. She was scared they'd come for her. Abigail flipped through it slowly, tears falling onto the pages. "They're not just coming for her," she whispered. "They're coming for you too now." Jamal sat still, chills crawling over his skin. "Why me? I'm nobody." "No," she said. "You're the witness. You married her. You're tied to her estate, and now that Eleanor's disappeared, That means you have access to everything. Suddenly the lights flickered, then shut off completely. Darkness swallowed the room. Jamal stood fast, knife ready, flashlight back in hand. Abigail's voice trembled in the blackness. "They found us." Then a voice echoed through the hallway, smooth, male, cold as winter. "Jamal, open the door." Jamal didn't move. Neither did Abigail. The voice came again, calm, like someone who wasn't afraid of being refused. "Open the door, Jamal. We know what you found." "Does?" Jamal flicked on the flashlight. Its narrow beam cut through the dark, revealing Abigail's terrified face, pale and still as stone. She mouthed, "Don't say a word." He nodded and moved toward the hallway, careful not to make a sound on the wooden floor. The voice on the other side of the door spoke again. "We just want to talk. If you cooperate, no one has to get hurt." That lie made Jamal's stomach flip. Nobody says that unless somebody's definitely going to get hurt. Abigail crept behind him and whispered in his ear, "There's a back exit through the kitchen pantry. Leads down to a cellar door behind the shed. It's probably our only shot." He hesitated. "What if they've got people watching?" "They do," she said, "but the woods behind that shed go for miles. If we get through fast enough, we can lose them. There's a safe house about a mile out. Eleanor set it up in case this ever happened." He looked her dead in the eyes. "You better not be lying to me." "I'm not. I've been running from these people my whole life." A loud bang shattered the silence. Not the door, glass. One of the front windows. A brick landed in the hallway, rolling to a stop near Jamal's feet. Tied around it was a white cloth and a message written in bold red ink. "This house belongs to the Circle. Return what's ours." "What the hell does that even mean?" Jamal muttered. Abigail swallowed hard. "They don't want the house, they want the files. Eleanor told me everything was hidden somewhere inside this place. Proof, names, dates, pictures, enough to bring the whole order down." "You're saying we're sitting on a bomb?" "No," she said. "We are the bomb." That was all Jamal needed to hear. He led her to the pantry, moved the old cereal boxes and canned beans aside, and pried open the hidden door in the floor. It groaned like it hadn't been opened in years. A rusty metal ladder dropped down into pure blackness. "You go first," Jamal said. Abigail nodded and started down. Another crash upstairs. This time the front door. They were inside. Jamal slid down the ladder just as voices thundered through the house. "Find him! Tear it apart!" He yanked the trapdoor closed above them and ran down the narrow tunnel behind Abigail, heart pounding like a war drum in his chest. The flashlight flickered as they sprinted through cobwebs and puddles, turning left at every fork, praying the tunnel would lead to daylight. After what felt like forever, they reached the end. A wooden hatch. Jamal pushed it open and emerged, behind the shed, exactly like Abigail said. The woods were silent, but too quiet. "Run," she whispered. They darted into the trees, branches whipping against their arms, shoes slipping in the moss and mud. Jamal held her hand tight, not daring to let go. After 10 minutes of non-stop sprinting, they reached an old cottage half buried in vines with cracked windows and a faded sign above the door that read, "The Glade." Abigail punched in a code on the rusted keypad. The lock clicked. Inside was dusty but safe. A small radio, emergency lights, a water jug, and most importantly, a thick iron chest in the corner. She ran straight to it. "This is it," she whispered. "This is what they're after." Jamal opened it with shaking hands. Inside were dozens of manila folders, photos of children, records, blood tests, ledgers with initials, check deposits, newspaper clippings that never made the front page, even letters with state seals on the envelope. Jamal stared in disbelief. This could bring down half the damn state. Abigail looked at him, her eyes bloodshot and raw. "That's why we can't stop running until we go public. We're dead." Before he could reply, the radio on the desk crackled. A voice, distorted but clear, broke through. "You can run, Jamal, but you married into this. You belong to the Circle now." The radio went dead. Jamal stared at it like it might explode, every nerve in his body tensed like a wire pulled too. Tight? He looked at Abigail, her hands pressed against her mouth, eyes wide. Neither of them spoke for a few seconds. Then he finally said it. They've tapped into our frequency. They know this place. Abigail nodded slowly. We were never meant to stay here. This place was only ever a pit stop. He grabbed the files from the iron chest and started stuffing them into his backpack. Where do we go next? You said Eleanor had a plan. She did, Abigail said, but it's not going to be easy. Nothing has been. She walked over to the desk and pulled open the bottom drawer. Inside was a burner phone, a folded map, and a single name scribbled across a sticky note, R. Mallory. Abigail looked up at Jamal. He was Eleanor's last hope. Said he was ex-Circle, a whistleblower. Went underground years ago. And you trust him? No, she said flatly. But I don't trust anyone. He's just all we've got. Jamal took the map and unfolded it. The location was circled in red, an abandoned mining town 3 hours north, deep in the swamp. A place nobody cared about, nobody went to. The kind of place where secrets stayed buried, because no one bothered to dig. They packed fast, only what they could carry. Jamal stuffed the burner phone and some of the more damning files into his coat. He wrapped the rest in plastic bags and buried them beneath the floorboards of the safe house, just in case. Outside, the woods were still quiet, but he could feel the Circle's eyes on them. Every step they took now mattered. As they got back, onto the road, Jamal finally asked the question that had been eating at him since day one. Why me? Why did Eleanor choose me? Abigail glanced at him, tired eyes full of something deeper than fear. Because you were good, she said. Because you didn't want anything from her. You just wanted a chance at life. That's why she trusted you with hers. He shook his head. Or maybe she knew they'd come after me instead. Abigail didn't argue. The drive was long, quiet, suffocating. They avoided highways, took back roads so narrow even the GPS got confused. Jamal kept one eye on the rearview mirror the entire time. Every car behind them felt like death. By the time they reached the mining town, the sun had dipped below the trees and the air was thick with bugs and heat. Rusted signs welcomed them to Redmouth Ridge population, forgotten. Abigail led him to an old warehouse at the edge of town. They knocked using the pattern Eleanor had written down, 3 short, 2 long. The door opened. A man stood there, early 60s, salt and pepper beard, eyes sharp and untrusting. He held a shotgun but didn't raise it. You're late, he said. Circle got to Eleanor, Abigail said quietly. His jaw clenched. Figures. He stepped aside and let them in. The warehouse was filled with radio equipment, documents, conspiracy boards and backup generators humming like angry bees. This was someone who'd been waiting for war. Jamal dropped the backpack on the table and opened it. You were part of them. R. Mallory nodded slowly. Back in the day. Before I saw what we were really doing. And what were you doing? Jamal asked. Mallory met his eyes. Creating gods out of monsters. Then he opened one of the files and scanned through it. These names, these records. If you release this, people will die. They're already dying, Jamal snapped. That little girl, Maria, died so you people could stay rich and untouchable. Mallory sighed. You think exposing this will bring justice? It won't. It'll bring fire. Then burn it all, Jamal said. Let the whole world see. Before Mallory could respond, the lights flickered. The building went silent. Then a soft beep echoed from Mallory's wristwatch. His eyes widened. They're here. Abigail backed toward the door. How did they find us so fast? Mallory grabbed his gun. They never lost you. You were tagged. Jamal's blood ran cold. What? Eleanor's ring, Mallory said. You're still wearing it, aren't you? Jamal looked down. The gold wedding band glinted under the faint light. A tiny red dot blinked from the inside. They'd been tracking him the whole time. Jamal ripped the ring off so fast it scraped skin from his finger. His heart thumped like a jackhammer in his chest as he hurled the thing across the room. It hit the wall and bounced under a metal rack. Mallory moved with military precision, shutting off every light in the warehouse, flipping switches on a panel that locked the doors and killed all visible signs of life. "Too late," he muttered. "They know we're here. 5 minutes, maybe less." Abigail was pacing, panicking. "What do we do? We don't even have a car anymore." Mallory popped open a hidden hatch behind one of the filing cabinets. "Underground exit. Tunnels lead out through the old mine shafts, but they'll follow the moment they catch our scent." Jamal grabbed the backpack and stuffed in the last of the files, his jaw clenched. "No more hiding. We go public. We dump everything." "Dump it where?" Mallory asked. "Every news outlet, every cop worth a damn, half of them are on their payroll. You don't leak this to the media, you weaponize it." Jamal looked at the radio equipment. "Then show me how." Mallory raised an eyebrow, impressed. "You sure you're ready to light a war?" Jamal stared at him, blood boiling. People already lit it. I'm just making sure it burns everyone it's supposed to." Mallory nodded and got to work. Within 2 minutes, they had the files scanned into a secure server. Names, payments, transcripts of rituals, evidence of disappearances, all of it set to upload to a deep web drop where it couldn't be stopped, scrubbed, or buried. "Once this goes live, your name will be everywhere," Mallory warned. "They'll come for you harder than ever." "I've been running my whole life," Jamal said. "Time to make them run." He looked at Abigail. "You in?" She nodded. "They ruined my life. Let's ruin theirs." Mallory triggered the upload. A blinking red timer started on the screen. "Upload complete in 10 minutes. Then the sound came. Engines, dozens of them. Outside, trucks pulled up. SUVs. Black, bulletproof. Men spilled out in body armor with no insignia. Not cops, not FBI, just them. Mallory loaded 2 shotguns and tossed one to Jamal. "This ain't no Hollywood shootout," he growled. "You fire only if you have to. The files are what matter. If you die but the truth lives, that's a win." Jamal nodded, holding the weapon tight. The walls shook as the circle began their breach. The first explosion rocked the front of the warehouse, sending shelves crashing and glass raining down like sharp snow. Abigail screamed, diving behind the desk. Mallory opened fire. "Go! Get to the shaft!" Jamal dragged Abigail toward the back hatch. Smoke was filling the room. They could barely see, coughing, choking. The countdown was at 3 minutes. Behind them, Mallory shouted one last warning. "If I don't make it, find the ledger, the original one. It names the founders. Without it, the circle survives." Jamal yelled back, "Where is it?" Mallory was already halfway into gunfire. "Buried with Eleanor!" The hatch slammed shut. Jamal and Abigail slid down a slick tunnel into the darkness, the sounds of gunfire and roaring men fading behind them. They didn't stop. Not once. They didn't talk. They didn't breathe unless they had to. The tunnels twisted for what felt like hours, until a faint light flickered in the distance. They emerged in a swampy clearing, moonlight breaking through twisted trees. The smell of sulfur and old rot filled the air. Behind them, the ground rumbled. A distant explosion lit the sky orange. Mallory had made his final stand. Jamal dropped to his knees, chest heaving, tears and sweat blurring his eyes. He looked at Abigail. "Eleanor," he whispered. "Where is she buried?" Abigail's voice shook. "Oak Valley Cemetery, the family plot. But if they know what's there, it won't be for long." Jamal stared at the sky, heart pounding. He wasn't just a poor black kid anymore. Not some orphan from Monroe Heights. Not a charity case. He was holding a secret that could bring down the circle. And now he had one last grave to dig. Oak Valley Cemetery lay quiet under a grey morning sky. Mist hung low across the headstones, curling like ghostly fingers through the grass. Jamal and Abigail stood just outside the rusted gate, both of them wearing exhaustion like a second skin. They'd been running all night. No food, no sleep. Nothing but adrenaline and fury to keep their legs moving. The circle had gone silent after the warehouse blew, but silence wasn't safety. It was the sound of something bigger, something final, coming. Jamal stared at the gate, his hand resting on the backpack that held everything they'd exposed. Every name, every crime, every forgotten child. Abigail gripped his arm. "You sure about this?" He nodded. "It ends where it started." They walked in together. The family plot was near the back, where the oldest graves leaned against time. Eleanor's fresh headstone stood between two moss-covered monuments. No flowers, no markings, just her name and the year. Eleanor Hastings. So 1948-2025. She knew this would happen, Abigail whispered. She planned it down to her own grave. Jamal knelt beside the headstone and began clearing away the dead leaves and loose dirt. After a few inches, his fingers scraped against something hard. Metal. A latch. He froze, then looked up at Abigail. "Help me." They dug fast, hearts racing. Beneath the grave was a small, rusted lockbox. Jamal pulled it free and cracked. It opened with the crowbar Mallory had packed. Inside was a black leather book, worn, sealed with a red ribbon. He opened it slowly, and the truth spilled out. The founder's ledger, a blood-soaked history of the Sycamore Circle, names going back generations, bank accounts, ritual sites, initiation records, judges, senators, media moguls, names he'd seen on TV his whole life, and photos. Photos that made Abigail cover her mouth in horror. Children, taken, used. One of them was her, bound, crying. This was the death blow. The one thing the circle could never allow to surface. As they stared at the pages, they heard it. The hum of a drone overhead. Then the scream of tires on gravel. Jamal stood and turned. Black vans. Again. 3 of them. The circle wasn't done. Men poured out, masked, armed, moving like shadows. Abigail stepped back. "What do we do?" Jamal pulled the journal close. "We end it." He yanked the flash drive from his coat, the one Mallory gave him, a direct uplink. Auto-sync to an open broadcast across thousands of servers. He plugged it into his phone. Hit send. A blinking bar appeared. Uploading, 12%, 15%. Gunshots cracked through the air. They ducked behind a tombstone as bullets slammed into the marble. Jamal covered the phone with his body. "Get to the tree line!" Abigail didn't argue. She ran, low and fast. Jamal stayed, took a deep breath, then stood. He raised his hands slowly, journal in one, phone in the other. "Go ahead." He shouted. "Shoot me, but the second I drop this phone, it hits 100%. The men paused. A silent standoff. One of them stepped forward, removing his mask. A man in a suit, clean-cut, cold eyes. "You think people will believe this?" the man said. "You're a broke black kid from nowhere. You married a woman 75 years old. The story already makes you look like a scammer." Jamal smiled. "And you look like a rich white man in a cemetery threatening a guy with a shotgun. Let's see how that plays on the news." The man took a step forward. 98%, 99%. Jamal raised his chin. "It's done. 100%. Ding." The man lunged, but it was too late. Everything Eleanor died protecting, everything Abigail survived, found every horror, every hidden sin. It was out. On the internet, in inboxes, flooding newsrooms, spreading like wildfire. The man stopped mid-step, eyes wide. His earpiece crackled. He turned and barked an order. "Pull back! Pull them all! Back!" But it didn't matter anymore. The dam was broken. 2 weeks later, the world changed. Slowly at first, but it did. Dozens arrested. Probes launched. Media chaos. The phrase "the Sycamore Files" dominated every screen. And Jamal, he disappeared. Gone like smoke. Some said he was in witness protection. Others said he fled the country. A few whispered he died in the woods that night, taking the circle down with him. But Abigail knew the truth. She watched the news from a quiet cabin upstate, sipping tea. A knock came at the door. She opened it. Jamal stood there, alive, scarred, but free. She smiled. "About time," she said. He grinned. "I'm starving, still trying to be a chef." She stepped aside. "Let's cook something the world can't swallow." And they shut the door on a past that finally had no power over them.